What if I told you you could eat chocolate, eat pizza, drink wine, and lose weight at the same time? It probably sounds too good to be true, but I'm here to tell you that it's not. In this episode, we're about to challenge everything you think you know about weight loss. Forget about endless sacrifices, restriction, deprivation, cutting out your favorite foods. These do not work. If you're someone that's been led to believe that the only way to lose weight is cut out sugar, carbs, and dessert and punish yourself in the gym, then make sure you listen to this episode. Because here's a spoiler, food is not the problem. The real problem is what is driving you to overeat and feel like you can't self-regulate. So if you're ready to stop dieting and start living, grab your headphones, bring a pen and paper. This is something you do not want to miss. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Never Diet Again podcast. My name is Max Lowery, weight loss coach, and I've been helping women lose weight for the last 10 years. I'm joined by one of our coaches, Mollie. Hello, Mollie.
Hello, good morning.
How are you today?
Yeah, very well. Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Today, we're going to be talking about how do you lose weight without feeling deprived? How do you lose weight without cutting out your favorite foods? How do you lose weight and enjoy it at the same time? I think this is something that we talk about all the time, and it's part of our USP, I would say. We've developed a way of helping people lose weight where you don't have to cut out your favorite foods. But the issue is, most people don't believe it. It sounds too good to be true. They've been stuck in diet culture for so long that they don't think it's possible to do that. They have a belief that in order to lose weight, you have to cut out your favorite foods, you have to punish yourself in the gym, and you have to be miserable. What that means is that basically there's no consistency. And whenever someone tries to lose weight, especially when they've done it repeatedly, they're thinking in the back of their mind, this is never going to last. There's no point in me even doing this. I'd rather be happy and eat the foods that I enjoy. So we want to go into a lot of detail about how we help our clients lose weight without feeling deprived and eat the foods that they want. Really, really important. The main things we're going to address in the podcast are what are the main reasons why people overeat, and essentially open you up to the idea that food isn't the problem. So let's say that chocolate is the food you feel like you can't regulate with, and you feel like you binge and overeat chocolate. We're going to help you understand why that might be, because food is not the problem. Secondly, we're going to introduce you to something called the 80-20 principle, which is a really powerful principle you can apply to lots of different areas of your life. But we're going to talk about how it can encourage and improve a positive relationship with food. And finally, we're going to help you switch from what's known as a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, which is really interesting. All right, so let's start with section number one. Why do people overeat? What is the real reasons why some people can't regulate themselves with certain foods and end up overeating and binging and struggling with their weight for their entire lives? Because like I said earlier, food is not the problem. I'm sure many people listening to this right now, maybe they feel like chocolate is their problem food and chocolate makes them put on weight and they have to cut out chocolate in order to lose weight. But I'm sure those same people who are listening have friends or family who can eat chocolate, regulate chocolate themselves with it, and they don't have a weight problem. I think they probably do. Because in that situation, is chocolate actually the problem then? If one person's got a problem with eating it and another person doesn't, the same food, is chocolate the problem? Probably not. So what is the problem then? Why can't some people regulate themselves with it? Well, it's all down to what is chocolate doing for you? And this is a really, really important question. What are you getting from it? And obviously, aside from, oh, it tastes good, there may be some fundamental emotional reasons that you are eating chocolate. So you could be stressed, you could be lonely, you could be bored, you could be procrastinating, it could be just a routine you get yourself into, it could be sad, anxious. Also, sometimes food can be a painkiller. So you're numbing the sensations that you're feeling. It can be an escape, and it can also be a punishment as well, which is a surprising thing. Probably people are thinking, how can eating something like chocolate be a punishment? But it's because if you overeat to the point where you feel really sick, and maybe you are sick, and you feel really guilty afterwards, it can be a kind of toxic cycle of punishment that people get themselves into, and ultimately punishing themselves for being overweight and for being lazy, quote unquote. which is a big, big problem. So essentially, using food can become a coping mechanism for life, essentially. And it's very, very common. I mean, essentially, if you've grown up in a family where your mum or dad or grandmother or whoever it was brought out the chocolate whenever you had a bad day, or even whenever you had a good day, maybe you reward yourself with chocolate, then likely you're going to develop coping mechanisms which involve food.
I notice a bit with me when it comes to chocolate or even drink, for example. I don't often use it for stress or negative emotions, but I definitely use it for celebrations, as a reward, a long week at work. You're with your friends, you're getting the chocolates out to just routine to kind of celebrate being together. You're like, let's just get a box of chocolates. So even with this, it doesn't necessarily have to be negative emotions. Often we can overeat as a sense of reward or celebration or habit in quite positive situations.
Yeah, something I hear all the time. Oh, I don't emotionally eat because I'm not like sad and I eat a tub of ice cream. I just do it when I'm happy or when I'm rewarding myself. And really, we would still class that as emotional eating. I have a disclaimer here. We're not robots. Food is meant to be enjoyed. There are meant to be emotions involved when you enjoy the sensation of eating and when you're with friends and family. It's just if you're struggling with your weight, and the only way that you know how to process certain emotions and you're constantly rewarding yourself whenever you've had a bad day or a stressful day, or when you've lost some weight, you reward yourself with some chocolate. You reward yourself with the very behavior that, gets you into this situation in the first place. Then it's going to make life very difficult and can really just keep you in a vicious cycle of guilt, of frustration, and constant weight gain. So food is meant to be enjoyed. Food is emotional. Food is social, but we just want to really differentiate what's going on here. We want to make sure that you also have some other coping strategies to deal with the stresses of life. Because once you address the psychological reasons why you might be overeating, you're going to drastically reduce your calories. You're also going to be able to regulate with chocolate. You're going to be able to eat mindfully because you're not using it for a specific reason to process emotion. You're just eating it because you enjoy the taste, which means it's going to be much, much easier to regulate and self-control with. So you're going to drastically reduce your calories when you address these psychological reasons why you might overeat, but you can still eat chocolate. And this is how you can start to incorporate your favorite foods. This is how you can start to go out for dinner with friends and family. This is one of the reasons, anyway, when you address the psychological reasons why you might be overeating. So, how do you stop it? Is the real question. Well, it's a gradual process. You know, I'm going to give you, or we'll give you as much information and tips as we can on this podcast. But this is ultimately like what we work on with our clients every single day. If you want to make this easier, get help from experts. If you want to get help from us, make sure you click the link below and book in a call, and we can assess to see what's going on and if we can help. But we'll lay out exactly how to do it now. So really, the first step is awareness. Okay, so just realizing that this is what's going on. Just acknowledging and admitting to yourself that, yes, I use food or alcohol to process certain emotions. That's the first step. If you don't even realize there's a problem, if I'm talking to you in this podcast and you do it, but you don't even realize you do it, then obviously you can't help yourself. So the first step is always awareness. And that's why we have a mindfulness expert, a mindfulness coach within the program, because we're helping all our clients become much more aware of what their thoughts, feelings, and emotions are, which drive certain behaviors. So once you have that awareness, then you can start to get a bit more specific. Okay, so what are the specific circumstances in which I usually turn to food? And what are those emotions that I'm feeling? So for a lot of people, it could be a stressful day at work. It could be a argument with your partner. It could be your children are playing up. It could be you didn't get a good night's sleep. It could be a whole host of things. It could be you're anxious about a task at work, so you're procrastinating, so you head to the fridge. It could be boredom, loads and loads of things. So you need to really spend a few weeks being really mindful and looking and listening to your thoughts, feelings, and emotions on a day-to-day basis, and keep a journal. Like literally get really, really specific with this so that you know what to look out for. So once you know what the triggers are, then try to identify what the emotions are. And there's a great, like human beings aren't very good at identifying emotions. You know, we have something called the feeling wheel, which we use with our clients, and it's essentially a wheel with 3 layers of emotions. And in the middle wheel, you've got kind of the basic kind of fear, happiness, sad, which are kind of quite broad. Then you go into the second layer, which is a bit more specific, and the third layer is even more specific. And the more specific you can get with addressing what your emotions are, that gives you so much power and information to understand exactly what's going on and why it's happening. So let's say that you are anxious because of a task that you have to do at work, and you feel like it's going to take all this time and effort, and you're worried you're not going to do a good job. So you procrastinate by heading to the fridge and eating to distract yourself so that you're not feeling the emotions associated with it. So that's really empowering to know. Once you know that, then it's kind of, all right, what else can I do which will help me process that emotion that doesn't involve food? So the ones that spring to mind for us, well, I'll share what mine are. Maybe Molly, you can share what yours are. So for me personally, it's walking steps, like outside, just getting outside and taking some deep breaths makes a huge, huge difference. Even if I don't have time to go for some walks, I've got a terrace in the living room now, which is great view of the mountains. I just go and take a few deep inhales and exhales into the nose, out to the mouth. And immediately my physiology and my stress levels start to decrease, and I start to process whatever I'm feeling. Exercise is a big one for me. Any like switching off my phone, nature time, all these things that help me process my emotions and deal with stress. How about you, Mai?
Walking's massive for me. That would probably be my biggest one, and exercising. Digital detox on a Sunday. I mean, that's quite a big one, but just to regulate myself ahead of the week. But then some smaller ones during the day. And I think this is key to manage emotions in the moment, in the situation that you're in, especially if you're working at home or you're about to join a call. There's a few things I do around. I might put a candle on before a particular meeting just because of the smell and the feeling of having a candle in my environment. Playing a certain song, if I've got a couple of minutes before a meeting, just putting a song that makes me smile on really helps detach from that emotion sometimes. And herbal tea, talking about specific times in which you potentially thinking about food or in this habit of, snacking or turning to food in the evenings. A switch that I made, and actually a lot of our clients have started doing, is having a herbal tea in the evening.
Yeah.
So
It's Ru voice or Row voice.
isn't that South African?
It's full of magnesium, so it really helps with sleep.
Yeah, and it's good. It's like, it's warm. It feels like you're, having something. You can get into a routine of having it at a certain time. So I do think it's important of having big things like exercising and walking, but also really finding small things in the moment that you can just help to regulate yourself. If it's 2 minutes you have before a meeting.
Yeah, and the trick is getting really aware of what's going on within your physiology. So when you feel stressed, exactly how do you feel it in your body? For me personally, I feel kind of like butterflies in my stomach, and I feel my heart rate increases, my breathing increases, and my shoulders start to hunch up. And I'm really, and actually, it's the breathing is the cue for me. Once my breathing starts to go quite quick, I'm like, all right, I need to slow down and calm myself down. And with time, with practice, you can start to get really good at recognizing the signals within your body, which are letting you know that you're feeling a certain way. And then you can ultimately stop, prevent what you usually do, which is turn to food and like, right, I'm going to go just take a few deep breaths. And even if the only thing you can do is 10 deep breaths, that will completely change your physiology. There's a reason why breath work and has got so popular recently, and it's been a part of human life, different breathing techniques for thousands of years. Yoga, for example, is like I think 3,000 years old, and they've used all sorts of different breathing techniques. But you can immediately change your physiology, how you feel just with your breath. Because I know what some people are going to be thinking is, when I'm at work, I don't have time to go to get some steps in. I can't go and I can't leave my desk. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do that. Everyone can take 10 deep breaths. Like
Yeah,
if
like
you
you can.
Well, if you can't,
Otherwise you're dead.
think you're about to die. So this is obviously a very, very, very big subject, how changing how you process your emotions. We've given you kind of an outline and an overview of how we do it with our clients, but this is not a kind of cut and copy process. It's different for each client. It's not something that it goes away overnight. It goes away gradually over time, and getting help and support with this makes it so much easier. And getting help from support from people who know specifically how to help you change the way that you process your emotions. Going to a personal trainer or a nutritionist, great for getting you fit, great for maybe sorting out any nutritional deficiency you have. When it comes to processing your emotions and behavioral change, potentially not. So, just to summarize, if you eliminate the calories that you're consuming and when you overeat because of emotional eating, suddenly staying in the calorie deficit is going to be much, much easier, but you can still eat the chocolate. Okay. So, and you'll also be able to self regulate much, much better if you're not like using the chocolate to fill a gap within yourself, if that makes sense. All right. Cool. Next tip, the 80-20 principle. So essentially, the 80-20 principle means that you eat how we advise, which is cooked from scratch, fresh ingredients, focus on protein, focus on fiber most of the time. So 80% of the time. And I think that might sound too much. That might sound like, oh, that's not enjoyable. But actually, when you do focus on eating in this way, but you start to crave these types of foods. That's what we see a lot with our clients. The clients who have maybe kind of got more takeaways, eating more processed foods. Initially, it doesn't feel great eating whole foods most of the time, but actually then there's a switch and they realize how much better they feel. But if you do that 80% of the time, that can give you some flexibility for 20% of the time to indulge in the chocolate, the ice cream. For me personally, it is French pastries. I live in France. There's award-winning bakeries round the corner and enjoy them guilt-free. And it's really important. This isn't a diet per se. This isn't like the weight loss technique that is going to change your life, but it's just an approach to help you shift your mindset on food, because there's no such thing as good or bad foods. This is really, really important. No single food will make you put on weight. No single food will make you lose weight. That doesn't exist. It's what's going on with your diet, your nutrition as a whole, and are you in a deficit or not? So if you're cooking from scratch with fresh ingredients most of the time, eating protein, all this kind of stuff, then naturally you're going to be eating less because you're going to feel fuller for longer. You're able to regulate. And then that gives you the freedom and flexibility to, for 20% of the time, to eat the foods that you enjoy, go out for dinner, and all this kind of stuff. Essentially, this eliminates the all or nothing mindset, and that can lead to cycles of binging and restricting. Because if you completely deprive yourself, if you completely restrict yourself from the foods you enjoy eating, it's like everyone who's done this knows what happens. You start obsessing about the food, and you'll be able to maintain this feeling of deprivation while there's motivation and willpower. But as soon as something happens in your life, you're too stressed, you have a bad night's sleep, something happens with your children, you will give in and you will overeat and binge, and you'll feel guilty and the weight will come back on and you'll tell yourself you failed. So by incorporating the foods that you enjoy eating, then you don't get any of that deprivation. You don't get that obsession building up within yourself to eat the food. So it's really, really powerful. You can get really accurate with this. So like, what does 80% look like? What does 20% look like? If you want to do it really accurately, the way that you would do it is you would work out, because obviously you still need to be in a deficit to lose weight, right? So let's say that you've worked out that you need to be in a 200 calorie deficit every day. So let's say that that number is that your calorie target is 1700 calories. So if you eat 1700 calories, you know that that's roughly a 200 calorie deficit with the amount of activity that you do. You then times that by 7. Let's just do the maths now. So 1700 times 7 is 11,900 calories. So that's the total amount of calories that you could consume in a week and be in a deficit at the end of the week. Because to be honest, as coaches, we're more interested in the weekly number than we are the daily number. If you want to work out what 20% of that is, so you do, what's the equation on that? 11,900 times 0.2.
0.2.
Yeah, 0.2.
Yeah.
No one's paying me for my math skills. 0.2, fortunately. So with 11,900 calories that you're consuming in the week, 2,380 calories can come from the chocolate, the ice cream, the pizza, whatever it is. Okay, so that is how you can get specific with it. And to be honest, that might be a good way of doing it if you're just starting, because then you can start to visualize what that actually looks like in the course of the week. But then most of our clients, myself included, it's just kind of we guess and estimate.
Yeah, I was going to actually say there's another way of, if you want to get quite specific, I love planning. I find the one thing for me, besides eliminating snacking, that really helps me manage my weight, but also helps the clients achieve their weight loss goal, is planning. Get prepared, visualize your week, have a look at how this is going to look over the next 7 days. So another way that you could look at it is, say you are having 3 meals. Gosh, I'm going to be doing quick maths now, but 3 meals per day for 7 days a week, that's 21 meals. So 20% of that is around 3 to 4 meals a week. So if you're looking at your week and you're thinking, how is that going to fit across the meals? You've got around 16, 17 meals that should sit in this 80%, which, as Max said, are home cooked, whole foods, made at home. And then you've got 3 to 4 that sit within this 20 that might be out with a friend, having a French pastry. For me, it's trying a new restaurant. So it just helps you visualize the spread of meals across the week. That's the way that helps me visualize it.
Yeah, and I think some mistakes that people make with this is, oh, it's the weekend, therefore it's 20%. The whole weekend becomes, so Friday night, dinner, brunch, dinner again Saturday, another brunch, huge roast. And each one is like, all right, this is my 20%. I'm going to, eat all these foods. You will likely push yourself into a surplus very, very quickly if you do that. So you still have to have an element of mindfulness and planning, and do be as accurate as you can with this. But essentially, this is a way that you can incorporate the foods that you enjoy and lose weight. And I think a lot of our clients are quite scared when they do this at first. They're so brainwashed essentially by diet culture that chocolate is going to make them fat, and that there's no possible way they could eat chocolate and lose weight at the same time. But essentially, weight loss comes from being in a calorie deficit. Hypothetically, you could eat chocolate breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, 7 days a week, be in a deficit and lose weight. Okay. I'm not suggesting that you do that because it's not going to last, but you can. And once you understand that, then potentially you can take the labeling off the food, take the guilt off the food, and understand that it's about what you're doing as a whole, not demonizing specific foods. And once you do this, it can be very, very powerful. All right. So moving into the last tip that we are going to give you for today, and that is shifting from what's known as a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. And you can apply this to every aspect of your life. So you could have a scarcity mindset with money, which means that you believe that there isn't a lot of money in the world, and that no one has money, and therefore money is a scarce resource, which then that can impact your decision making and your behavior on a day-to-day basis. You could say that, in my perspective, there are not a lot of women of a certain caliber in the world, so there's a scarcity mindset with women and relationships, say for women and men. And that can mean that potentially you get yourselves into relationships which aren't right because you think, oh my God, this is a scarce resource. I need to go whatever I can find. Instead of thinking, actually, there's an abundance of potential women or men out there for me, and that's going to help me kind of make decisions in a different way. So you can apply this to everything. But when it comes to food, it's essentially you believe that you have to avoid certain foods to lose weight, and that ultimately, because of that, that certain foods are a scarce resource that you can't have all the time. So it's like, I can only eat these sometimes. I'm going to restrict and deprive myself most of the time, and occasionally I will eat them. And the issue with that, it leads to disordered eating and an unhealthy relationship with food. It leads to overeating and binging, because what usually happens is, this is a typical scenario, is right, I'm on a diet. I'm going to go out for dinner with friends. And before that, I'm going to tell myself I'm not going to have dessert. But then I go out for dinner with friends and everyone's like, come on, have some dessert, have some dessert. And because food is a scarce resource, I'm thinking, okay, right, I'm going to have it now, but then I'm not going to have it for another 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks. I'm not going to have it again because I'm on a diet and I need to lose weight. So I'm just going to go all in. I'm going to eat as much as I can and make the most of it. So that essentially leads to overeating and binging, feeling a bit sick. And that can happen repeatedly, all the time. Because food is a scarce resource, then whenever you do eat it, you go mad and you can't regulate with it. And essentially, you're making decisions from a place of kind of stress, scarcity, fear, anxiety, and kind of acting like a child in some ways. I would say it's more like childlike decisions. Whereas, of every diet that you've ever done encourages a scarcity mindset with food. When you have a scarcity mindset with food, it's going to be almost impossible to regulate yourself with certain foods. And I hear this time and time again for potential clients on initial calls, on initial coaching consultations. They're like, no, 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 I can't eat chocolate. I know you're telling me that I can, but I can't because I can't regulate myself. I just overeat. I can't just have one piece. And that is a clear sign that they are stuck in a scarcity mindset with chocolate. And then what happens is our clients go through a process, and all of a sudden they can take it or leave it. They can have a piece or two, enjoy it, and because they know they can have it again tomorrow if they really want, it gets rid of the disordered eating and the unhealthy relationship with food. So you want to shift from a scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset with food. And when you're in an abundance mindset, you're making decisions as an adult. You're making decisions out of intuition, out of confidence, out of love for yourself, for the food itself. And that is a much more empowering place to be than making decisions like a child in a scarcity mindset. But like I said, it's going to be almost impossible to regulate yourself if you are stuck in a scarcity mindset. And again, this can be difficult. You may not even know that you're in a scarcity mindset. Maybe this is the first that you've heard of it. This isn't some hack that I'm giving you. This is a fundamental perspective shift that needs to happen within your life and with your beliefs about yourself and about food. And that can be quite challenging, but obviously made much, much easier with help and support.
Often as well, where people might be restricting on, say, chocolate and not having it at all, which is what Max was going through. But also, as you're listening to this podcast and start looking at your own behavior, it could be the other way, where actually, as you then start to have it, this is where the overeating happens. And it's not just having a small bit of chocolate, it then filters into the overeating, which relates to where this emotion comes in. So I think if there is one thing that you take away from this podcast, just spend the next week monitoring your own behavior, certain situations. I know what most clients say to me is you're like a mirror. We work with our clients, especially at the beginning, to really understand what's happening day to day, what they're eating. And we find out, everything. And I think it's often quite a big realization of what's happening in reality because we're on autopilot and we don't realize. So, just spend some time really putting a mirror in front of you and seeing what's going on.
Yeah, you're right. Be honest with yourself. I think people like to tell themselves, oh, I don't emotionally eat, or I don't binge, I don't overeat. I'm not in a scarcity mindset. But the problem is lying to yourself and hiding from the truth, and I think y- we've had clients who have spent their entire lives avoiding facing the reality of their situation, avoiding mirrors, avoiding social occasions, avoiding photos. So they're just kind of like living in this alternate reality where it's not a problem. But unfortunately, if that, I mean, we no judgment, of course, that can be a great coping strategy because otherwise, if you were really aware of how bad it was, you'd probably be deeply unhappy. But without being connected with how bad the reality of the situation is and being honest with yourself, there's going to be no motivation to change. You're just going to stay stuck in this cycle. And it's going to be a very draining life to live. So it is, yeah, take a look in the mirror, ask yourself some hard questions, and bring awareness to your daily behaviors on a daily basis. So to summarize, the way that you can eat your favorite foods and still lose weight is you understand why you overeat. So understand what food does for you, understand your emotional triggers, practice self-regulation, potentially incorporate something called the 80-20 principle, and shift out of a scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset. Okay, so I appreciate this isn't some kind of quick magic wand fix and hack. Unfortunately, those don't exist. This stuff can be quite hard and quite challenging, and ultimately that's why we have jobs. It's going to be so much easier to do this if you have some help and support from experts, from people who know exactly how to help you and your type of person. So we've been helping women over 40 for the last 10 years. So in that time, we've helped thousands of women in your exact situation that you're listening to this right now. So quickest way to get in contact with us is to click the link below, a quick 10-minute chat with one of the team. No pressure, no selling. It's literally just to see if we can help and just have a conversation. That's it. If you're not ready for that, then you can receive 52 days of fat loss tips by email, or you can check out one of our fat loss masterclasses, which is like a 20-minute training, which explains everything that we do with our clients. Hopefully this has been useful. Hopefully this has been illuminating. Thank you very much for joining, Mollie, and we will see you soon.
Perfect.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.